The graphs we're supposed to get that. The blue one, that's sine x. So this will be f of x. And the black one, that's g of x equal to 2 cos x. And this will be f of x equal to sine x minus 1. All right. Now, the next thing is to answer questions from those two graphs. Now, sometimes, okay, in any case, in grade 10 and in grade 11, in most cases you'll be asked to actually sketch two graphs on the same system of axis as I did. And then you will be asked questions from those two graphs. All right. Then the next question after sketching, right? I hope you got those shapes. The next question says, write down the following: the amplitude of G, right? The amplitude of G. So this is G. You have to look at the coefficient of cos x, which is 2. So amplitude will be equal to 2, right? Or if you look on the graph, the minimum value is a negative 2, the maximum is a positive 2. So if you use this formula, amplitude is equal to y max minus y minimum all over 2. It means that you have 2 minus 2. So this is 5.2.1, right? All over 2, you get 4 over 2, which gives you the 2. Okay, so that should be straightforward, finding the amplitude. Then the range of f, which is the sine graph. Now you have to go to the graph, you identify the minimum and the maximum. The maximum value of y is a 0. The minimum is negative 2. So your range is going to be y is an element. We are starting from negative 2 to 0. Please, you have to put square brackets here. If you put circular brackets, your answer becomes incorrect. Okay? So you have to put square brackets to indicate that you are including both the minimum value and the maximum. Also, when you start writing your range, always must start with the minimum value, then the maximum. All right? Okay? Then the next question will be, it says, use your graph to determine the following number of solutions to f of x equal to g of x. Now, when we say f of x is equal to g of x, it means that the two graphs are intersecting. So we need to know how many points are there such that the two graphs are intersecting. That's what this question is saying. So by number of solutions, it is saying where are the y values of the sine graph and the cos graph equal. Now those points are the points of intersection. So it will be this point and that point. So the answer is going to be 2. So the answer here is 2. There are two solutions because there are 2 points where the two graphs intersect. All right. Any questions there? But if you don't have a question, then let's move on to 5.3.2. Says, determine the values of x in the interval 0 to 180 degrees, for which sine x is equal to 2 plus 2 cos x. Right? So we need to determine the values of x between 0 and 180 degrees, such that sine x equal to 2 plus 2 cos x. Okay, is equal, so sine x is equal to 2 plus 2 cos x. Right? Now, for you to be able to do this question here, you need to be aware that we can uh, we can simplify that equation. Right? The equation that I'm talking about is this one here. If we simplify it, we can write that equation as sine x equal to 2 plus 2 cos x, right? Then we can take this 2 to the left so that we can have sine x minus 2 equal to 2 cos x. Right? Now, we know that this 2 cos x is it's equal to the graph that we have, right? And then that sine x minus 2 is slightly different from f of x because we have a minus 1 here. So I can split this up. And let me go to the next page because this part here is a little bit tricky. So this equation, I'm going to rewrite nicely on this page. Let me start again. So we are given that sine x is not a very easy question. It's more like it's a level 3 or level 4 question. It's a higher order question. It requires a better understanding of the graphs and the equations. So sine x is equal to 2 plus 2 cos x. Right? We have to manipulate this equation based on the equations for f of x and g of x. Together with the graphs that we have drawn, we work with all those things together. Right? So I can rewrite this as sine x minus 2 equal to 2 cos x. Alright? Then we know that f of x is equal to sine x minus 1. G of x is equal to 2 cos x. So what this means is this is equal to g of x. But the left hand side has got a 2 here instead of this 1. Therefore, I can rewrite the left hand side as sine x minus 1 equal to 2 cos x. Alright? Then the next thing now, I can now substitute this sine x minus 1 by f of x, this 2 cos x by g of x. If I do that, I'll get f of x minus 1 equal to 2 cos x. Alright? Equal to g of x. Like that. Right? Then, okay, before I carry on, is there anybody who has got any question with regard to what I'm doing? Because this question here is a higher order question. Okay, if you're silent, then I'll assume that you are following. Then, the next thing here, we can write this as f of x minus g of x is equal to 1. Right? So, we can use this equation to get our answer. So all we have to do is we need to go to the graph and determine where f of x minus g of x will give us an answer which is equal to 1. Alright? In this case here, there are two scenarios, or rather I would say the main scenario is going to be f of x must be greater than what? G of x. That's the best scenario, right? Or you can have g of x being negative, but f of x being negative. So both can be negative, but g of x will be like, say, a negative 2, but f of x will be a negative 1. So that when you add f of x minus g of x, you get a positive 1. Right? So let's look at the graph now. Now, when you're analyzing the graph, you need to know that the top one between 0 degrees and 90 degrees, that's g of x. And then f of x is the one which starts with the blue one, the black one is g of x. So I need to know for what values of x is the difference between f of x and g of x equal to a positive 1. So if I look at this point here, y is 2, here y is minus 1. Right? Y is 2 here. So since I'm using this equation, I need to f of x minus g of x is equal to 1. Here, g of x is 2. Here, g of x is minus 1. Remember, we want values of x between 0 and minus 0 and 180 degrees. So we have to use the critical points for us to be able to get the answer. So we use the y-intercepts, the x-intercepts, and the turning points. So it means if I use y equal to 2 here for g of x and y equal to minus 1 for f of x, I won't get 1 because I'm going to end up having minus 1 minus 2, which will give me a 3. So the next point that I have to look at is this one. But at this point of intersection, f of x is 0, g of x is 0, so I can't get 1. Which means I may be left with this point and that point. Both of them, they are at 180 degrees. Right? But now, the value of y here for g of x, it's a negative 2. The value of y here for f of x is minus 1. So if I put minus 1 here, let me use a different color. So if I put minus 1 for f of x minus 2, because the value of y here is negative 2 for g of x. The value for y for f of x there is minus 1. If I simplify this, okay, I'll get 1. Because minus 1 plus 2 give me a 1. Therefore, we only have one solution for that question. So the answer for this question here is going to be x is equal to 180 degrees. And I'll show you the working out. Alright, so this question, they could have asked us the question as this, but they tried to make it a little bit more complex. But it can also be asked as this. For what values of x is f of x minus g of x equal to 1? It could be asked that way. But here they just use the original equations, or sorry, the original expressions for f of x and g of x. Okay, which makes it more complex. It's written in this format. Okay. Any question?
No, sir.
All right, so I think if you don't have a question,